Первый раунд.
Round one underway. This is our main event here on the Salida Promotions YouTube channel. Corey Erdman here with you. This is Evgeny Terentiev in the blue and gold, the southpaw. Taking on another southpaw in Viktor Plotnikov in the black trunks with pink lettering. Plotnikov, typically an orthodox fighter, but coming out southpaw here. A lot of interesting decisions being made here by Plotnikov. Set aside his stance, the fact that he's 43 and moving up to 154. A true 154, really, for the first time in his career. Again, just looking for one last big opportunity. Tarenchev, meanwhile, we mentioned the loss earlier this year to Islam Sultanov, who was 9-0 at the time. Lost a 10-round unanimous decision in that one. That was for a regional WBC belt, now fighting for a regional WBA belt here tonight. And the bottom sort of quadrant of the WBA rankings presents some possibilities for someone like a Tarenchev. Names like Kieran Conway and Herbert Rondon. Chris Algieri is looking to get back into the mix of things. Anthony Fowler is out there. So potentially some fights to be made with names like that, assuming he can get the victory here tonight. Plotnikov, he has been in that position before, but has always taken losses when he has stepped up. He's been stopped 3 times in his career, but always a very solid fighters. Ahmed Almasawi, Sergey Lubkovich, and the world title challenger Batir Akhmedov. Those are the names who have stopped him over the years. So you typically have to be a pretty good fighter to get him out of there, albeit that was always in lighter weight classes, now stepping up against a bigger man. A powerful southpaw in Tarenchev. Fairly timid round one. That'll do it for the opening round.
Секунданты. Второй раунд.
Round 2 of our 10-round main event. Thank everyone for tuning in here on this Christmas Eve. Excited to give you the gift of live boxing. One final time of the year here on the Salida Promotions YouTube channel. As Evgeny Terentiev connects on a left hand over the top on the veteran Viktor Plotnikov. Plotnikov connect with the left hand there as well. We saw a couple of those in the previous round. Maybe this is the answer as to why he's come out as a southpaw. And we have seen him do this throughout his career as well. He is a fairly adaptable fighter. But so far, not a bad strategy for Plotnikov. See some blood on the nose of Plotnikov. Even coming into this fight, it was clear there was a cut that he was dealing with, some sort of scabbing on his nose, even at the outset of this fight. It wasn't going to take a whole lot to open that up, and already it's going to be something for him to deal with. Plotnikov just letting his hands go here in the second round. Good little combination there from Plotnikov. Crafty veteran giving a good account of himself so far here in the main event. Not a lot of steam on those shots, but it's been enough to get the attention of Tarenchev. And typically the pattern in Tarenchev's career thus far has been that to beat him, you have to hurt him. In each and every one of his fights, he has touched the canvas. Excuse me, in each and every one of his losses, he has touched the canvas. So typically, you have to hurt this guy in order to beat him. This is a big 154-pounder, too. This is someone who filled out as a light heavyweight pretty well in that interim fight against Chernikov, and we saw what he did to Chernikov on that broadcast on October 30th. So a good round for Plotnikov. I think you would have to score that one for the Ukrainian veteran.
Секунданты. Третий раунд.
As round three begins, you saw that cut on the bridge of the nose of Plotnikov in the corner there between rounds. That was opened up by Tarenchev. That was not created by Tarenchev. Plotnikov came into this fight with that gash, and now perhaps a clash of heads. And we'll get a doctor to take a look at this.
Back.
Well, the blood is certainly flowing from that cut now. And it is perhaps motivated Tarenchev to hit another gear. He is going after Plotnikov now. You see the body language, vastly different. Now that he feels that Plotnikov might be under some duress. Good right hook there, connects from Tarenchev. Now really putting the pressure on Plotnikov. you could see in some of our replays between rounds, it was a good round for Plotnikov, and I think that many judges would have given him that round. But in between a lot of that volume, there were some heavy shots being snuck in there. Uppercuts to the body, and there's another clash of heads. And the blood really coming out of that gash on the nose of Plotnikov. Well, this could be an interesting ruling as well, because the cut already existed. When this fight started, the cut was basically already there. It was opened up initially by a punch. Now, it has been significantly worsened by fouls. So let's say this fight gets called off right now. What is the ruling? Is it deemed that Plotnikov wasn't able to continue because of the headbutts? Or do they go back to the fact that the cut, you know, technically was opened up by a punch? We'll see if we even have to decide that. Because Plotnikov certainly still seems interested in fighting. And the doctor has not yet shown that they're going to pull him out of this fight. But Tarenchev, he's trying to pull him out of this fight with power shots instead. Final 10 seconds of what has been a little bit of a messy one here in our main event. Another round of the books.
Секунданты. 4-й раунд.
Plenty of Vaseline on the nose of Plotnikov, trying to tidy that up as round 4 is underway. Good body shot there from Tarenchev. Tarenchev is a guy who's just looking for his break. He's come up short in the wrong situations thus far in his pro career. He lost a split decision to Magomadiev, who last year was supposed to face Patrice Volny in a final eliminator for the chance to face Gennady Golovkin. So had he won that fight, maybe he would have been in that position. But he does have a big win, a decision win over Artur Osipov, who at one point was ranked in the top 10 by the WBA at middleweight. So he's been kind of in the orbit of breaking into the top 15. He needs a win here to maybe get a crack at another fighter like, you know, a Madiev or an Osipov was, to get that world ranking. Or perhaps some of the names we mentioned earlier in the bottom half of the BA rankings. I know for very good reasons people aren't particularly fond of sanctioning bodies at the moment, but That is the game we're playing, and particularly in this fight when a regional title is on the line. That is what someone like Tarenchev is angling towards. Final minute here of round 4. And the condition of the face just worsening for Plotnikov. And the severity of the shots that Tarenchev's landing increasing right now. Solid left hand there connects. That backs Plotnikov up. You can hear Plotnikov breathing through his mouth right now. There's a lot of blood coming from his nose. And he is expending a lot of energy, particularly in that round, trying not to engage with Tarenchev. There was that shot right along the belt line. That one hurt Plotnikov. Managed to get out of the round, but that's the first time we've seen Plotnikov really shaken in this fight.
Секунданты. 5-й раунд.
Round 5, it took about 10 seconds or so for each fighter to realize that the round had started. But here we go. And we'll see if Tarenchev can dig to the body the way that he did in the 4th. He definitely had Plotnikov in trouble. And he starts with a body shot and drops him with a right hook. Tarenchev may be sensing that Plotnikov doesn't have a whole lot left. He's battling age, he's battling size, but he's also battling a really, really nasty cut that is just pouring all over the place right now. Plenty of time for Tarenchev to capitalize here in this round, although Plotnikov has responded well. He just ate a big left hand a second ago. Tarenchev looking for it again. He's been hurt by a body shot. He's been dropped by a right hook upstairs. Tarenchev working behind a bit of a shoulder roll here, maybe looking to load up a left hand. Final minute of a round 5 that wasn't looking promising for Plotnikov, but perhaps he can make his way out of, but you wonder just for how long he can continue in this fight. Plotnikov just pawing with that jab, just giving Tarenchev anything to think about. as he tries to recover, just holds on here. And he just might make it out of this round. The crafty veteran will fight on for at least one more. Although we'll see what his corner has to say here, as the punishment starts to mount and the cut starts to worsen. And there was that right hook on, you know, on a second look, the feet certainly were tangled, but shot did land there as well.
Секунданты. 6-й раунд.
Round 6 underway. The second half of this fight, Evgeny Terentiev and Viktor Plotnikov in our main event, the final broadcast of the year here on the Solita Promotions channel. Another marathon day of fights brought to you by Shamo Boxing in association with Solita Promotions. The full slate of fights here started right around 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. A 20-fight card in total. A lot of fighters getting some work in right before Christmas season. Good shot to the body there from Tarenchev. See Tarenchev with a very strong frame for a guy fighting at 154 pounds. Been up as high as 167. The last time his opponent Chernikov was inside the light heavyweight limit. But he's cut down as low as 151. You can see why just physically this guy's been able to show the power that he has. Well, Plotnikov is no stranger to fights with nasty cuts. Probably the fight that most people have seen Plotnikov in is about years ago when he took on Jeff Horn. That was 6 years ago. Plotnikov at that point was world ranked by the IBF, which led to the bout with Horn. He lost that fight via technical decision after a very bad cut over Jeff Horn's eye. Caused the bout to be stopped. Now we're inside the final 10 seconds of round 6. What has been a brave effort, at the very least, from the veteran Plotnikov.
Секунданты. Седьмой раунд.
The tenor of this fight has calmed down just a little bit. It looked like Plotnikov was in serious trouble in and around the 5th round, but he's managed to kind of steady things down a little bit. He's been around the block, we mentioned, 43 years old, 33-9. And there was a time when Plotnikov was actually a very popular fighter in the Ukraine and a pretty good ticket seller as well. One of his bouts back in 2008 reportedly drew over 7,000 fans. Well, that's the way things go in boxing. Unless you're lucky enough to make enough money to get out when you're on top, gradually you come down the ladder and test fighters and show them what you know on your way down. Now Plotnikov taking a shot at 154 pounds and representing somewhat of a bounce-back fight for Tarenchev. And Plotnikov certainly figured out he can't stand there and engage with Tarenchev, perhaps the way that he would like, maybe the way that he could in his prime. And Tarenchev just trying to slow down the 43-year-old legs of Plotnikov as we approach the final minute of round 7. Good left hand there, connects from Tarenchev. Now he's looking for more. Plotnikov has been able to take these shots. You know, the cut is certainly one thing. We've documented where that came from, but even the knockdown, at first glance, looked like just a solid right hook, but upon observing the replay, there was a tangling of the feet, and he recovered well from that. So, might not be winning this fight, but he has been able to give a decent account of himself and stand up to a pretty good puncher in Tarenchev thus far.
Секунданты. 8-й раунд.
Round 8 begins between Evgeny Terentiev and Viktor Plotnikov. This is a 10-rounder, our main event. Body shot there from Tarenchev. And, you know, it's always fun to hear the origin stories of how fighters found their way into the squared circle. And in Tarenchev's case, when he was younger, he competed in judo, in soccer. He was a pretty good volleyball player as well. But his real passion was in boxing. And when he was young, he started going to the boxing gym and training, but he didn't tell his parents. The only way they found out is when he invited them to one of his fights and they showed up. and they saw their son in the ring. And after they saw how good he was and how passionate he was about it, they agreed to let him continue. And here he is now, just trying to chase down Viktor Plotnikov. Good uppercut connects there from Tarenchev. Seeing a little more desperation from Tarenchev here. Desperation not in the sense that he thinks the fight's getting away from him, but that he wants to make a statement. He's got an older fighter, a smaller fighter, a wounded fighter in front of him. And no doubt he wants to close 2020 with another highlight reel knockout. See the blood of Plotnikov just covering the arms of Tarenchev. You know, if there is a criticism of Tarenchev thus far, is that he hasn't really been throwing in combination, and that could be attributed to the fact that he's not really a devout jabber. He doesn't really lead with his jab, especially when he gets into this kind of formula where he's working behind a shoulder roll. He's kind of just throwing his right hand out there to see how his opponent will react so he can counter with a left hand. But you wonder if he just put his guard up and just walked Plotnikov down, threw a couple of punches in sequence.
Секунданты. 9-й раунд.
Two to go here in our main event. It's been a gutsy effort from Viktor Plotnikov, but ultimately he hasn't really been able to threaten the bigger man, Evgeny Terentiev, in really any meaningful way. He had a pretty successful round two when he was letting his hands go as he hits the canvas there. That'll be a push. I think he found in that second round that in between those combinations that he was landing, he was getting touched with some heavy stuff. And effectively since then, he started moving a lot more, a much more negative approach, and can't fault him. Again, given the fact that he's moving up in weight, he's giving up a lot in terms of age. And he's fighting through a whole lot of blood on his face right now, too. Plotnikov thought that should have been a clean break. Tarenchev plays fair there and lets Plotnikov out. No left hand on the break there from Tarenchev, although he's getting a little annoyed with the holding of Plotnikov. Final minute here of round 9. Left hand sails over the top from Tarenchev. Plotnikov really just playing defense here. There's a left hand that comes over the top. Not a lot of steam left on the shots from Plotnikov. Final 10 seconds of round 10. There were points in this fight when it didn't look like this fight would get this far. We will enter the final round in our main event.
Секунданты. Финальный 10-й раунд.
The fighters touch gloves, and we entered the 10th and final round of our main event between Evgeny Terentiev and Viktor Plotnikov. No doubt Tarenchev looked at this one, looked at his opponent and was hoping for another highlight reel knockout. And he is hunting for it here in the 10th. Over the last 4 or 5 rounds, Plotnikov has been doing a lot of moving, a lot of holding. He sensed early on that he was physically overmatched and that his only chance of winning, or plan B, survival, was to not engage with Tarenchev and eat shots like that uppercut that now has him on the move. Plotnikov just grabs a hold once again. And you know, if not for the cut, this wouldn't have been a fight with a whole lot of drama. This would just be an older fighter looking to spoil and a younger fighter desperately trying to knock the other one out and winging power shots. But the blood has kind of added another wrinkle to this fight. It's given Plotnikov another element to battle through. And it's just another element that's hanging overhead, not knowing if and when this fight would be stopped. But Tarenchev getting kind of frustrated with the veteran tactics, shall we call them, of Plotnikov, who is very cognizant of how to survive and is 50 seconds away from doing just that. A little uppercut on the inside from Tarenchev, but again, it's one shot, and then he's smothered by Plotnikov. And it'll be a win for Tarenchev that will look better on paper, a win over a 33-9 opponent than perhaps it did bell to bell. But the outcome likely all the same. We wait to make it official, but the conceding look on the face of Plotnikov there as he walked over to the corner. Ready for the decision. Let's send it down to our ring announcer to make this one official.
И завоевал титул чемпиона WB Азия в первом среднем весе Евгений Терентьев.
So no surprises, Evgeny Terentiev improves to 17-3 and picks up a regional title in the process. And maybe learned a thing or two from the wily veteran Viktor Plotnikov, who had to battle through a nasty cut all night long in order to make it the 10-round distance. Not the highlight reel knockout we saw from Tarenchev, the last time out against Tarenchev Chernikov. But the win is ultimately what matters, and perhaps we'll see him get an opportunity maybe outside of Russia in the new year. He has put himself in that position with a good-looking win on paper over a more experienced Viktor Plotnikov. Well, it's been an entertaining day of fights, a marathon day of fights presented by Shamo Boxing in association with Salida Promotions. If you tuned in earlier on today, you saw the second professional outing of the Olympic gold medalist Hasanboy Duzmatov, picking up a first-round knockout victory. Valery Oganishin victorious over the former top 10 welterweight Dmitry Mikhailyenko. Nikolai Potapov getting a 10-round decision over Alexander Gorischuk. And you saw just prior to the main event, Pavel Silyagin with a surprising stoppage over the double tough Sergei Kamitsky. It's been an exciting day of fights, and it's been an exciting year of fights in 2020, a year when perhaps we didn't think we would see a whole lot of boxing action. The sport managed to adapt, and we were lucky to be able to bring you plenty of boxing action here on the Salida Promotions YouTube channel. Once again, victorious in our main event, it was Evgeny Terentiev picking up a 10-round unanimous decision over Viktor Plotnikov.